Thiruvan Sarnai. Last time we were talking about ego, and we were talking about the greatest enemy ever. But the ego doesn't know about that. Therefore, the ego thinks that your friend, your next door neighbor, your relative, one of your relatives, they are the enemies. Until we realize the truth, we will have many enemies, many foes. When we realize the truth, we will have only one. When you realize and when you see that, you will fight against it and you will destroy it. You will win. That's why the Buddha said, you need to conquer yourself. That's the only thing you need to do. But we try to conquer the world. We try to achieve many things, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happened to us. We strongly believe that we can achieve many things by conquering the world. That's what the ego needs. Therefore, let's understand about the ego. Well, let's understand about the mind, which is very pure. Let's experience the mind, which you haven't done yet. You haven't experienced your mind yet. You only have experienced the ego. That's why you have been suffering. That's why you're vexed, and you are vexed, and you will be vexed. Perhaps when I say that you are vexed, you don't believe it. When I say you are suffering, you won't believe it. You don't believe it, and perhaps you will think against it. Or you might think that, how dare you say this? We are not suffering. We are the happiest people ever. This is how the ego thinks, ladies and gentlemen. Because the ego wants to be happy. But you know what? The mind doesn't want to be happy. Because the mind is happy. The mind doesn't want to be happy. If you try to be happy, that's not the mind you are talking about. You're only talking about the ego. Because the ego is vexed. The ego is vexed, the ego is suffering, therefore the ego wants to do something to come out of suffering. That's why it works day in and day out, as you did, and as you do. This is endless suffering, ladies and gentlemen. Until you realize about the ego, until you differentiate the ego and the mind, and until you identify these two as two, not one. But now, perhaps you think that this is one, ego and the mind. Because you can't experience the mind, then you think that this is you. You combine these two, you unify these two. You unify these two, the mind and the ego. You unify them and you create one. Now you think that that's you. But if you have experienced your mind, you never say this, because the mind is so pure. That's only a perception, essentially. You identify things, you perceive things. That's the purpose of the mind. The mind is a process. It's only a process. It can't suffer. It can't be vexed. It's only a process. Now you can see this fan is rotating. It is moving here and there. It's not suffering. Because it's a process. If something is a process, it can't suffer. It can't be vexed. Therefore, the mind can't be vexed. But you are vexed because you are the ego. Therefore, let's understand about the ego. Actually, when you understand about ego a little bit further, then we can suppress it. We can suppress the power of ego. Otherwise, you will listen to the Dhamma, which means the ego will listen to the Dhamma. You came here, but actually, now ego is listening to the Dhamma. Then one day, the ego will be an arahant. The ego will be a stream enterer. When you listen to this sermon, perhaps you will be a stream enterer, Sotapan. You will be. But if you will be a stream enterer, that's not the real stream enterer we are talking about. It's not the real stream entering we are talking about. Because the ego became a stream enterer. Then the ego will talk about that. Because the ego wants to talk about itself. Don't you familiar with this? When you go somewhere, what do you want to do first? You want to introduce yourself. You want to introduce yourself, ladies and gentlemen. That means you want to introduce, that means the ego wants to introduce itself. Otherwise, you will make a sound at least, make a noise to show them that you are here, you are present. That's what people do. And you collect more things. Wealth, perhaps education. You acquire things. Then you can. You means I'm talking to ego. You know that. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to ego. I don't mean to hurt you. But I'm talking to ego, ladies and gentlemen. Ego wants to show itself to others. But the problem is, everybody has ego. That means the ego is everywhere. Therefore, ego has to acquire more things to show itself. That's why people get a good education. That's why it's a popular saying or popular manner in the society. Everybody needs to get a good education. Everybody needs to get their PhDs. If you have a PhD, you can show yourself to others. Look, I have a PhD. If you have a huge amount of money, then you can show others that you are one of the richest people in the world. Then you can show yourself off. You means, again, I'm talking about the ego. Then, if you can't do that, then you can become a monk or clergy. Then you can show that you are the most righteous person in the world. You are the most noble person in the world. So on. That's why I told you, the ego is the enemy. Wherever you go, the ego is with you. With you and within you. Therefore, if you don't destroy this, you will suffer forever. You will suffer forever means each time when the mind is created, the ego is created. This ego is a process and this ego is a creation, ladies and gentlemen. It is formed. Then you should be thankful to the Buddha because the Buddha has discovered it. The Buddha has discovered that this ego is not inbuilt, it is created and it is a process. When I came to know about that, I was over the moon. because I knew that. Now I have a battle. But if this ego is fixed into your mind, which means if this ego is you and yourself, then tell me, what is the battle you have? You don't have a battle to battle. You already lost. But now we know that the ego is a process. Therefore, we can fight against it. We can seize the process. If something is a process, definitely we can seize the process. Therefore, first of all, you should identify that as a process. And the other thing is you should identify that ego runs your body. The ego runs your body. The ego runs your mind. You do everything what ego needs, ladies and gentlemen. Not the mind needs. The ego has wantings. The mind has needs. Can you compare these two? Wantings and needs. The mind has needs. The mind has to look after this body. Therefore, the mind needs to feed the body, but good food. But the ego wants to satisfy itself. Therefore, it eats junk food. And it kills the body. It kills the mind. The ego doesn't want to choose anything. If it has a wanting, it wants to fulfill the wanting. It doesn't think about anything because the mind doesn't belong to it or the body doesn't belong to it. Ego is actually an outsider, ladies and gentlemen. It's a creation of defilements. If the mind is defiled, the enemy is created. Don't ever think that it's friendly or it's a friend. It's not a friend. It's an enemy. It is the enemy, I would say. You don't have any other enemies. But right now, you may have few opponents, you may have few enemies in your life because the ego has created them. But the mind has to fight. The body has to tolerate. The ego wanted a wife or a husband. The ego. Do you really think that the mind wanted a husband? The mind is a process. Tell me the wife of a process. Who's the wife of a process? In Sinhalese we could say process C. It's a process. It doesn't need a wife because it doesn't have a wanting to fulfill. It's a process. But the ego, it has many wantings. The ego wants to satisfy itself. That's the only purpose of the ego. The only purpose, I'm telling you. Therefore, it lives to satisfy itself. It doesn't want any other things. It doesn't consider about any other thing. It needs to be satisfied. Therefore, it can kill anyone. It can destroy the whole world, I'm telling you. That's what they do. Can't you see? Some people want to destroy the world. Some people want to save the world. Some people want to make a better world to live. Ego runs the world, ladies and gentlemen. But the mind doesn't need anything. The mind is okay with the world. But the ego is not okay. Because it has its own wantings. If it can't achieve its wantings, then it can't live. Therefore, it has to do something. That's what you have done, you have been doing. Again, I'm talking about the ego. Let's fight together, ladies and gentlemen. But I don't want the ego to listen to me. If the ego listens to me, then it will fight. It will fight, and it won't at least consider about what I'm going to say. It will neglect this because it doesn't need an answer, because it doesn't have a problem. The mind has the problem, ladies and gentlemen, because the mind can't feel itself. The mind can't experience itself. Just imagine this: if you can't experience yourself, how sufferful it should be. Therefore, the mind has a problem. I want your mind to listen to me. Then we will fight together against ego. As I said before, the ego doesn't care about anything. Actually, the ego is callous. It doesn't care. Some people help other people. Do you know why? The ego wants to do that. Luckily, the ego wants to help someone. If the same ego wants to kill that person or destroy that person, do you think that it will think twice? No. It doesn't want to. It wants to satisfy itself. When you wanted to marry, you married. Then when you wanted to get a divorce, then you did it, because then you thought that that's my right. Again, I'm talking about the ego. I'm not talking about your personal life. Just imagine that. This is the society we are talking about. This is the society. When you want to do something, you do it. Perhaps somehow you do it. If you are rich, you can do it better. That's why everybody wants to be rich, because you can spend money and do that. Satisfy yourself. So yourself means actually satisfy the ego. Then just imagine this. If your spouse has ego, don't you afraid of him or her? Therefore, help him to destroy the ego. Let him come to the sermon. Let him listen to sermons. Let him understand the Dhamma. Otherwise, if the ego wants you to be kicked off from the family, it will happen very soon. You never know when. Can you guess when you'll be murdered? Just imagine. You don't know. Why? Still, the ego doesn't want it. Why don't you commit suicide? Or when do you commit suicide? You don't know. Why? The ego doesn't want it yet. But when the ego wants it, you will do that. Therefore, wanting is very dangerous, ladies and gentlemen. Wanting is very dangerous. You never know when it comes to you. When the wanting is created, ego is the in charge. Ego takes the charge, and it will do whatever it wants. Therefore, if you can understand this, you should see the enemy. I'll take a few minutes you to understand about the enemy, or you should identify the enemy. Then you can fight against it. You have been suffering due to ego. You wanted to be recognized. Therefore, you work hard. Today, again, you want to be recognized. Therefore, you work hard. You put extra effort in your life to earn a little bit more than perhaps your neighbors. Again, I'm not talking about this, you means this audience, I'm talking about the society. You means the society, not you. When I say you, I mean the society. Just imagine that. You can't stop what you do or what you have been doing because you need to prove yourself. You need to show yourself to the world. You can't stop that. Therefore, you do whatever you have to do. Therefore, if you can understand this, you will realize that you do things because you have to do. Without doing that, you can't live. Because when the ego hurts, actually, it will be a time bomb. You never know what will happen after that. Think about this. But the problem is, the ego has created an environment, everyone to understand, or everyone to believe that ego is normal. Therefore, the society believes that everything is normal. This education system is normal. Everyone has to do this and that. This is very normal. If someone wants to attain Nibbana, or if someone wants to achieve their salvation, that is abnormal completely. If someone works against the ego, then it is abnormal. Then people think that perhaps they ask, are you mad? Why do you want to attain Nibbana? Are you mad? Why don't you become a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer or whoever, or a businessman? And why don't you enjoy the life? Why do you really want to become a monk? You may have these problems. The mind wants to be pure. The mind wants to be free from suffering, ladies and gentlemen, but the problem is the ego never let. That's the problem. Because ego wants to be the in charge of the mind. Therefore, ego never listens. When we discuss the Dhamma, ego never listens. Actually, you can listen. Now you listen. I may have asked 1,000 times you to practice the path. How many times can you put? I ask you to come to the monastery as much as possible and associate these noble people. They practice the path day in and day out. They have only one purpose in their life. Their sole purpose is to attain Nibbana. Therefore, they try their level best to understand the Dhamma every day, every time. Therefore, I ask you to come to the monastery and associate. But the problem is, when you listen to me, you say, yes, we'll do that. But I know that it never happened. Why? When I talk to you, your mind will start to listen. Right now, but perhaps now your mind listens to me. Perhaps at the beginning, the ego listens to me. When we discuss about the ego doesn't want to hear about itself. When we talk about itself, then the mind comes up. Then the mind starts to listen. But the problem is, you listen, and when you go home, again, ego will be the in charge, and ego will do whatever it wants. Therefore, perhaps on Sunday morning in Rajagiri, or Sunday evening here, you can come, but you have other work to do. You have other work to do. The reason is, ego doesn't want to attain Nibbana, because ego is okay. Ego is not suffering. The mind is suffering because of the ego. Ego wants to satisfy itself. That's it. Therefore, ego does anything in his power to satisfy. Therefore, please understand about the ego. Understand it as your enemy. And let's fight against it. To fight against it, we should come together. Because alone, you can make a small impact. But when we come together, we can discuss the Dhamma. Alone, you can work with your wisdom. Perhaps your wisdom is not enough. That's why you need a teacher. That's why you need someone to guide you. Therefore, if you can create that environment, you can win. But the problem is, first of all, you should understand that you need noble association. You need it. Because you have a lot of work to do, I know. If I ask you to come and stay with us, you can't. Because you said, no, I have a lot of work to do. How can I come and stay with you? You all don't have any work to do. That's why you became monks and nuns. But we have a lot of work to do. We have to change the world. Look at the world. They are fighting. I'm here to help them. I'm going to build weapons and give them to fight, kill each other. One can say, not you, one can say. The other one can say, I'm going to save them, I'm going to protect them, I'm going to let them understand that this fight is not good. Therefore, I will help them to understand that. Then I will win the Nobel Prize. That is one of my goals. I really want to achieve that. Who's talking to you, ladies and gentlemen? The ego. The mind is serene, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't want to involve with all these things. It is serene. If you don't have a wanting, you can sit where you are. You can eat what you have. You can see what you see. You will be okay with anything. That means actually, when you see, let's assume that if this is beautiful, that means your mind accepts this. Therefore, you can see that, oh, this is beautiful. Your mind accepts and your ego also accepts this. If your mind accepts this, you can see. See means actually you can keep looking at it because it's so beautiful. But if something is ugly to you, you can't keep looking at it. Therefore, you try to change that. But if you can change your mind, then you can see anything as you are seeing a beautiful object, beautiful something. Therefore, you don't have to change the world. You just need to change your mind. Change your mind means you just need to eradicate the ego. If you can eradicate the ego, you don't have any wantings anymore. If you don't have any wantings anymore, then you don't need to see a specific thing. But right now, you have to see some particular things. You don't like to see certain things. I don't have to say it. But you like to see some other things. Therefore, you try to change your environment. But if you can change your mind to see anything that feels more beautiful, then you don't have to work hard. Right now, you spend your salary to change the environment. What have you done? How much money you have spent to change your mind or purify your mind so far, ladies and gentlemen. Because actually you don't have to spend even a penny to change your mind. You can come here. You can stay with us. At least when you are free, you come here and stay with us and listen to the Dhamma, discuss the Dhamma, and you can preach to us whatever you have understood so far. Preach to us means you can discuss. Then a teacher will help you to understand. If you are wrong, then they will make you correct. You don't have to spend money. But the problem is now you need to do a job. You need to earn a lot of money because you are going to change nature. That's a huge job, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you feel that you are doing a lot of things and we don't do anything. You don't feel that. I'm talking about against society. Please don't take this personally. Are you sure about that? Sure, right? Otherwise you won't come here, because if ego hurts, the ego wants to destroy the world. I know that you won't destroy me, but ego wants to destroy the world. And you can destroy me, I think, in two ways. One is you can destroy me. The other one is you can avoid me. Then you can't see me anymore. You can't listen to these things anymore. Then ego will be satisfied and ego will be so happy because we don't have to see that bald-headed someone. But each time when you come here, you have to listen. You have to listen, then it hurts. Actually, I can talk a little bit sharper than this. Not now, but in the future. Let's do that. In the future. Because that's what we had to do. We had to aim the ego. You must do this. Otherwise, what can you do? That must be the voice. But initially, let's move smoothly. Somehow we need to win this, ladies and gentlemen. Otherwise, you will suffer forever. Now you have a chance because you have teachers. You have seen some people who really want to achieve their salvation. Then you should be very grateful because you have seen them. Let's assume that you are the only person who wants to achieve your salvation, like the Mahabodhisattva. Just imagine that. You are the only person who wants to achieve your salvation. You don't have a teacher. Nobody is there to teach you. But right now, you have many teachers. You have a noble association. We all are with you. That's why I told you, you have a chance to achieve your salvation. But we need to understand that. You need to understand, because I can help you if you really want to help. If you ask for help, I can help you. We all can help you if you ask for help. Now you can see, perhaps when you look at us, you think that, oh, they do only one thing. They just eat what we give and they meditate, or they think, they discuss the Dhamma. When I talk to you about us, I can only tell you, we discuss the Dhamma, we preach the Dhamma, we listen to the Dhamma, we chant the Dhamma, we contemplate the Dhamma. There are 5 things the Buddha asks us to do. From morning to evening, that's what we do. Those 5 things. Then Dhamma, 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 Dhamma. Then you might say, they only do Dhamma. Dhamma. Whatever they do is regarding Dhamma. It's so simple life, Dhamma. But then you can count. Do you think that these fingers are enough? No. To count what you do? No. Because you have to change the world now. We are going to change our mind. And we are going to make our mind universal, ladies and gentlemen. Then the mind can accept anything. The mind can be happy with anything. But ego can't be happy with anything because ego has its own wantings. I can prove it to you. Let's assume that you want to eat something. I'm going to give you this. Will you be happy? Will you be happy? No. because you want to eat something. If you want to eat a piece of cake, and I'm going to give you a packet of rice, will you be happy? No. Because if you have a wanting, you can't be happy with other things. You have a wanting, you have a wanting. That means you expect only one thing. But if world has infinite number of things, you need only one thing, ladies and gentlemen. When you expect this, you will lose everything. What is the favorite color? Let's say blue. This is the favorite color. How many colors are there? Infinite number of colors, ladies and gentlemen. Mainly few colors, but after that, infinite number of colors. But if you want this, if you want blue, you can't be satisfied, or you can't be happy with red. You can't be happy with green. You can't be happy with white, because you want blue. The mind has to stick with this, because the ego wants this. When a wanting is created, actually the mind loses everything. It can't be happy with any other thing, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I told you, don't ever think that ego is friendly. It's not a friend. Because of ego, you have lost a lot of things. When you want this, you lose all other colors. When you want to eat, if you need to eat, that's fine. When you want to eat something, a piece of cake, a particular type of cake, then what about other food? There are many foods, ladies and gentlemen. How many? 1 million, billion, perhaps infinite number of things. But you can't be satisfied. If you want to eat rice, then you need rice. If you have a wanting, you can achieve only one. But if you don't have a wanting, you can experience everything in the world and be happy. Then tell me, we are going to change our mind, we are going to purify our mind. Purify means actually we are going to eradicate the process of the ego. We are going to do that and be happy with anything, and can be satisfied with anything after that. Therefore, we don't have to earn a lot. We just need 4 basic requisites. Whatever you give, we can eat. Therefore, we don't have to earn. But right now, you have to earn because you have your own wantings. In the morning, you have to eat this. For lunch, you have to eat that. For dinner, you have to eat another one. You have created that. Because wanting is there. There are some food items. You can't eat them in the morning. What about kottu? Can you eat kottu in the morning? Do you think that it won't digest if you eat kottu in the morning? It will, but the ego has its own wantings, ladies and gentlemen. In the night, it needs a kottu. That's why. Whereas in the morning you need milk rice. Now you can see. But if you can happy with whatever you have, actually you can have a useful life more than this. Is that okay? Actually, if I can remove your ego before you enter the monastery, then I will keep it, and like your baggage, then I will take it and I put it somewhere, and when you go back, I'll give you. Because it's really difficult for me to talk, ladies and gentlemen, because if it hurts, I don't mean to hurt, but if it hurts, then you won't come back. Perhaps you won't come back to Rajagiri. Oh, because he always talk about me, and then you think that, oh, I won't go there. That's why actually I don't want to come to Rajagiri. He always asks me to come. He always asks me to come at least once a month. Then I said, no. I don't know how to talk to these people. If someone comes to the monastery, they know that they enter the den of the devil. They know that because they come to the monastery, ladies and gentlemen. But if we go somewhere, then we have to be very careful when we talk. But we really want to help you. I'm like a doctor, ladies and gentlemen. I want to clean your wound. You all know that. If you are a doctor, you clean the wound. You clean the wound. Because we need to discuss. We need to discuss about our behaviors. Because we are not talking about ourselves. We are talking about the ego. We are talking about defilements. But when we talk about defilements, the ego feels that we are talking about itself. That's the problem. We are talking about it. Then it hurts. Then it doesn't want to listen to anyone because the ego always controls the body. Because the ego controls the mind. Therefore, if the ego wants, it can avoid this right now. You can pretend that you are listening to me, but you don't. Because you don't want. I hate this speech. I don't want to listen. You do that. If it hurts. But if I talk about you, if I talk about the ego, just imagine that, then it will have a nice smile and it will listen to me. If I say that you are the best, I'm telling you, so far what you have done is fantastic. You are so beautiful. You are so handsome. And you are well educated. And you have a very useful life. When we discuss about these things, the ego likes it. And the ego wants to listen to it over and over again. That's why when someone talks about something good about you, you need to listen to it over and over again. Say it again? Oh, yes. No, that's what you do. When can I prove this? Right? When someone says, let's assume that you wear a new necklace. You wear a new necklace and it's so beautiful. And when someone sees that, then he says, oh, you are so beautiful today. Then you know why. Yes. Then next time what will you do? Next time when you go out, what you do? You wear that because you want to listen to that compliment, ladies and gentlemen, that comment. Again, I'm not talking about you. You are the mind. At least just believe this. You are the mind. You are so pure. But actually you are not the mind. You, nothing. There is no such thing called you, I, me, all these things. But at least for now, you are the mind. You are not the ego. You are not bad. You are not good. You are noble. You are noble. Let's cleanse this. If something is good, that can be bad as well. But if something is noble, it can't be good as well as bad. Therefore, let's be noble. If you are noble, then you can love everyone. But right now, you can love only a specific types of people. If I am a murderer, will you love me? I am a monk and I help people to understand the truth, therefore you love me. If I am a murderer and whoever I see, if I kill them, will you love me? You can't, because you have a wanting. You want to love good people because you like them. What's wrong with those prisoners, ladies and gentlemen? Can't you love them? I know you can, but again I'm asking from everyone. Can't you love them? Everybody says we love prisoners, we love everyone. I don't believe that. Do you? Not only prisoners, listen, bad people who are called sinners, but you all know that there is no such thing called sinners. You can't find any sinner. But people talk about sinners, and people don't like sinners. They don't want to help them. Actually, that's why they are in a prison. The society doesn't need them. People don't want them. They are there. You must be there because you are not good people. That's how people think. Because they have their wantings. Everybody wants this world to be good. Can I say something? I don't want this world to be good. I want this world to be the world. Therefore, I love everyone. I don't discriminate anyone. I can love everyone. I can care for everyone. Because I don't have a specific wanting, ladies and gentlemen, to help a particular kind of people. But the problem is, if the ego talks, it has its own wanting. Some people want to help young people. Because they are beautiful, perhaps, handsome. Perhaps someone can preach to them. But there are some elders. Perhaps they are close to their natural death. But some doesn't want to talk to them. Because they have their own wantings. The ego can't preach. The ego wants to be satisfied by preaching. If the ego starts to preach, the ego wants to be satisfied with its preaching. It always discriminates people. It always discriminates. We can't blame it for that. That's how it is. It's ego we are talking about. We are not talking about the mind. We are not talking about a noble thing. We are not talking about a pure thing. We are talking about defiled thing. The ego is created due to defilement. Then it should be garbage, ladies and gentlemen. The ego should be garbage. Therefore, let's purify that. Let's cease the process of defilement. Actually, you can't do anything to the ego. What we need to do is, we need to cease the process of defilements. Because defilements are created in the mind. Therefore, we need to cleanse the mind. That's why we use the Dhamma. Dhamma is a medicine. When we contemplate the Dhamma, there's an environment. When we contemplate the Dhamma, a particular kind of environment is created. In that environment, the oil can't be formed. With the Dhamma, we are going to create that environment. That's why the Buddha said, Dhamma Ramo Dhammarato Dhammang Anuvichintaya. You have to create an environment with the Dhamma, which is a monastery of the Dhamma. If you can create a monastery of the Dhamma, that means the environment is created now. Environment I was talking about. Now, in that environment, defilements can't be created. If the defilements can't be created, then the ego can't be created. Now the pure mind exists. When the pure mind exists, then you will be happy. Because you don't feel vexation. But right now you feel vexation. If you feel vexation, you can't be happy. Always you have to do something. That's the problem. When you feel vexation, you have to do something. But when you feel your mind, you don't have to do something because the mind is the action. The Buddha said, Arambana vijana lakkanan chitta. According to that, the mind is a process. It's an action. Therefore, you don't have to act separately. Arambana. Sight is an arambana, which means a color is an arambana. If a color is an arambana, from the color, you will get a perception of the color. That process is called the mind. That's why I told you it's a process. First of all, the color is created. As you all know, this pen is blue, but blue color is not in the pen. The blue color is created in your mind. I would say the blue color, this specific blue color, the blue color is created in your mind. It is created first. After that, from that to the perception. That process is called mind. The mind is not a machine. The mind is not a person. The mind is a process. It's an action. Therefore, you don't have to act separately. The mind does that. But right now, you have to act according to your wantings. Because when you have a wanting, your mind is vexed. Now you have to act to come out of vexation. Each time you have to act to come out of vexation. But if your mind is not vexed, you don't have to do that action anymore. Again, if your mind is vexed, you have to do something. You have to act. But if your mind is not vexed, you don't have to act. You just need to be there, that's it. The action occurs. When you open your eyes, the blue color is created in the mind, then it is notified, it is identified, it is unified, then the perception is created. From color to the perception. That process is called the mind. You don't have to do that. It happens. It occurs naturally. If there is no vexation, then you don't have to do anything to come out of vexation. That's why I told you, you can totally be free after that. But right now, with the vexation, you have to do something to come out of that. When you do something to come out of that, again, the ego is created. Then ego is satisfied. Then ego has another wanting. When the ego has another wanting, now it will happen again. The mind is vexed, then it has to do something to come out of that. Then again, it will feel pleasure, and it will misjudge pleasure, and it thinks that, oh, it's pleasurable. Then again, it will have another wanting. That's what happens. Therefore, the ego never comes out of this. That's why we need to find a method to eradicate the process of defilements. To eradicate the process of defilements, we have a path. The Buddha has introduced us. The Buddha has discovered. Therefore, we know it now. The path is you need to eradicate ignorance. The ignorance about nature. Therefore, every time we have to talk about ego, we have to talk about the process, we have to talk about all the reasons, and we have to talk about how to eradicate those reasons. These are the 4 noble truths we should talk about. That's why in every sermon, we discuss about ego first. Ego means jati. If in Pali, it's jati. We talk about jati, which means ego. And finally, we will realize that the ego is a process. Ego is not you, ego is a process. When you realize the ego is a process, you know that it has its causes. Then you go to those causes. Then the ego is created due to ignorance and attachment. Attachment is created due to ignorance. Therefore, what we have to do is, we need to find a way to eradicate ignorance. To eradicate ignorance, we need to use the Dhamma. The Buddha said 3 things: anicca, dukkha, anatta. We need to learn about these 3. We need to learn about these 3, not only learning, but also we need to apply it. Learning is not enough, ladies and gentlemen. We need to apply it. We need to apply it, we need to understand it. When we understand that, ignorance won't be there anymore. If ignorance is not there, now you have created the environment which I was talking about before. The environment of the Dhamma. We can create that with the Dhamma. If you don't have that environment, you have an environment of ignorance. It is very dark. It is the darkness. You can't see anymore. That's why the mind can't see. The mind is so blind right now. Therefore, ego became in charge of the mind. Therefore, ego controls the mind. The ego always controls the mind because of the darkness. Therefore, we will bring the light to that darkness, and we will destroy it forever. The light comes through the Dhamma. The light comes through the realization. Therefore, when we talk about anicca, then we should realize, we should apply that into the universe, into nature, and we will realize the truth. When we realize the truth, that environment is created. That environment exists. That's what you need to do. If you can live in that environment, which is called Buddha Bhumi, the Buddha's land, if I say, that is created with the Dhamma. Dhamma means if you can memorize few stanzas. What do you think? You memorize few stanzas and have you created that? No, you need to understand. Perhaps you can't remember anything. Perhaps you have that problem. You might say that, I love the Dhamma, but I can't remember any stanza yet. No, you don't have to remember anything. If you can understand that, that's enough. But I have to remember because I'm going to preach to you. If I can't remember, I can't preach to you. If you are not going to preach, then you don't have to remember anything. But you have to understand that. You have to understand that then if I ask you to explain, you should be able to explain. Because you don't have to use stanzas to explain anything. You need to use your experience to explain. That's why I told you, when you contemplate the Dhamma, you need to apply into your own life, your own experiences, then you will realize that. Then when we talk about anicca, when we talk about dukkha, the last time we were talking about anicca actually, today let's talk about dukkha, but We will talk about everything because anicca, dukkha, anatta, we can't separate them. We have to talk about these three. But let's mainly talk about dukkha today. You may have heard about anicca, dukkha, anatta. But the meanings are distorted, let's say. Meanings are distorted. Everybody jumps on the bandwagon. Whoever says something, they believe it because they don't practice. If you practice, you will realize that whether it's correct or wrong. Otherwise, you will take it and move forward. I want you to practice. Don't believe me. Don't trust these words. You just listen. Listen and apply into your life. If it is correct, then you follow it. Otherwise, don't. Find the truth, because this is actually, we are talking about your salvation, ladies and gentlemen, not my salvation. We are talking about your salvation, your only salvation we are talking about. You are going to put your time to achieve your salvation. Therefore, you have to find the truth. If you can find the truth will set you free. Therefore, find the truth. If this is the truth, then follow it. Otherwise, find the truth. How do you find the truth then? How do you make sure that it's the truth? There's only one way. Because your experience is truth. You have experienced that. No one can deny it. You have experienced it. If you see this, you have seen this. No one can deny that. I can't say that, no, you saw a rose. Can I say that? No, you saw a pen. Therefore, this is your experience. Then apply the Dhamma to your experience. When we talk about dukkha, then the Dhamma has been distorted because it came from generation to generation. If someone wanted to achieve their salvation, they were able to find it. And they practice, then after that, again, it disappears. This is how it works. You can't find the truth in a book. We have the Tripitaka. We respect that. We have those stanzas. We have those suttas. We have everything. But the problem is, the truth is within you. You can't find the truth in letters. You can't find the truth in this pen. The truth within you, ladies and gentlemen. Then we use these letters, we use these words to find the truth. Does it make sense to you? You need to find the truth. Use these words and knowledge. I can pass knowledge to you. This is knowledge. I have wisdom within me. I can't give my wisdom to you. I can give knowledge, facts. If I talk about anicca, that's a fact. That's a characteristic of nature. I can teach you about that. That's it. Then when you listen to that and start to apply, then you will realize the truth. Then the realization is the truth. From me, you can't get the truth. In your mind, the truth will be created. That realization is the truth. Then you will start, perhaps you think that you will be so kind and you will write it down because you want the next generation to be enlightened by your wisdom. But you write. What do you write? You write letters. You write words. You write sentences. You write essays. You don't write the truth. Because the truth will die with you. You can pass the message. And you have to pass the message. You have to pass the message and help the other person to understand that. How do you know that whether he understood it or not? You need to discuss with him. That's what we do. We preach to them and we discuss. And we check their understanding. If they have understood this, then they should be able to talk about their own experiences. When they talk about their experiences, then we know that they have understood something. Then we check their behaviors. If they want things, if they have wantings, then we know that they serve their master. There are two masters, ladies and gentlemen. There are two masters. One is the ego, other one is the mind. There are two masters. That means one is the devil, other one is God. The mind is God. The ego is the devil. Remember this. Jesus Christ once said, you can't serve two masters. You have to choose one. Of course. I strongly believe that. You can't serve two masters. You have to choose one of them. You have two masters within you. One is the ego, but that ego is an outsider, ladies and gentlemen. That master is not a good master, or it is not there to do any good to you. But it is so powerful. Actually, I can't say that. It's so powerful, but the mind is even powerful. But the problem is, the ego is in charge of the mind right now, without the Dhamma. But when we add a small bit of Dhamma, it starts to shake. And finally, it starts to dissolve. Finally, it will disappear. Then the mind is the king, and you will be happy forever. But I want you to serve one master. You need to choose to whom I serve. The ego or the mind. When you start the journey, you have to do that. Right now, I can't force you to do it, but I can force you to do that. Because you have started the journey, you need to choose a master. You need to choose a master because you are in the monastery and you practice the path. But actually, I'm really sorry, I can't force you to do that, can I? Huh? Can I force you to serve only one master? That means if I ask you to don't do anything to your wantings, just be patient. What do you think? Don't try to fulfill your wantings. You don't try to achieve your wantings. You just need to stay in the path, practice the Dhamma. Because when you have vexation, when you are vexed, actually, use the Dhamma to come out of vexation. Come out of means actually it's not coming out of vexation. Actually, when you use the Dhamma, the process of the vexation stops, ceases. When the process of vexation ceases, then you don't have any wanting anymore. Then you are okay. There are two ways. One is the Buddha's way, other one is the Mara's way. In Buddhism, Mara and devil, whoever. When we say Mara, Mara is not the Vasavarti Mara we are talking about. Mara is your defilements. Your own defilements, ladies and gentlemen. Through the defilements, the ego is created. The ego is Mara now. Therefore, the Mara handles you. The Mara asks you to do good things, the Mara asks you to do bad things. Then you do all these things. When you do good things, you earn merits. When you do bad things, you commit sins. And finally, if you believe or not, you will go to hell. Or you will go to heaven. Or you will come back to the earth again as a human being or an animal. We never know what will happen. If you don't believe, just leave it. Leave it behind. When you become one, you will realize it. If you don't believe that either, then let's leave that. Then you need to, when you start practicing, that's how it is. When you start practicing, you need to choose one master and start to serve. For us, we have only one master. That means when we we have a wanting, then we can't fulfill it. If we fulfill it, actually we serve the Mara again. We serve the devil. If we serve the devil, then we will fail, because we are in a war against Mara. But if we start to serve him, then we will fail. There are two ways. We have only 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, I'll try to I'll try to preach to you something. If you have 5 hours, then we can talk about little bit of something, a little bit of something within 5 hours. You know that in Saturday sermon, we do 5 or 6 hours sermon, but we just do a little bit. But this is only 2 hours. But I promise you that I will discuss about dukkha. But I never know what will happen. But let's go. But we will talk about something useful anyway. Perhaps it is worth than your whole life. Is that okay? These 2 hours, these 2 minutes perhaps, 2 minutes, 1 minute, because we are talking about the truth, and we are going to win. But what you have been doing is useless. You will realize one day. You will realize one day it is because I have realized that. Due to ignorance, attachment is created. Due to attachment, vexation is created. Due to vexation, abhisankara is created. That means, I would say action, some action. You had to act to come out of vexation. You had to do something. You had to look, you had to listen, you had to do something to come out of vexation. Because with this attachment, actually wanting is there. When wanting is there, vexation is there. When you have a wanting, definitely vexation is created. Now, if vexation is created, now you have to do something. When you do, then you can come out of vexation. There is one way now. Actually, for everyone, apart from the Buddha's disciples, there is one path. That is, due to ignorance, attachment is created. Due to attachment, vexation is created. Due to vexation, now you have to act. I would say abhisankara. Abhisankara is created. Then due to abhisankara, you can come out of vexation. You can come out of vexation and you can feel pleasure. When you feel pleasure, again the mind will believe that the world is pleasurable, and again ignorance, it creates ignorance again. This will happen over and over again. This is the path people can see. But the Buddha has discovered another path. Another path means actually that is the real path. This is a circle, you can say that. This is a cycle, I would say. This is a cycle. Then it never ends. But when vexation is created, if you can cease the process by eradicating the ignorance, because we can't eradicate vexation, ladies and gentlemen, because vexation is an effect. If something is an effect, you can't destroy that. You can cease the process, because effect is created due to a process. Try to understand that. When I write 123, this is the process. 1, 2, 3. When I write 123, then the 123 is an effect. And 123 is a process. By writing 1, 2, 3 is a process. Then if you don't want to see this anymore, or if you don't want 123, you need to stop the process. You need to stop the process. Now you can't see it anymore. You need to stop the process. You can't see it. So you need to stop the process. Each time this process occurs. Therefore, you need to stop the process. Otherwise, you can't eradicate this. Because this is created. If this is created, you can't wipe it out. You can't erase it. You can't eliminate it. Because it is created. It is created and you are suffering at that time. Therefore, if it is created, you need to suffer. You need to experience it. Like this. Can you see this blue color? When you see blue color, it is created in your mind and you perceive it. When the blue color is created in your mind, you have to perceive it. You have to perceive it. Perception occurs. You can't stop that. But if I don't want you to see this, then I will cease the process. Can you see it? Can you see it? No. Can you perceive it? Can you perceive blue color? No, you can't, because I cease the process. That's when I remove one of the causes of the process. If that causes is not there, you can't see it anymore. That means perception is not there. But I can start the process by showing this to you. Now the perception occurs. Now I can see the process. Now I can let it start. Now I can cease it. Now you can see. When I show this, you can't stop the perception. Perception occurs. Then, if vexation is created, you have to experience it. That's it. You can't eradicate that because it is already created. If someone slaps you, it hurts. It's already hurt. Then you can't do anything. Because that process is over. When it is created, actually the process at least until that point, the process is over. It will continue from there. Therefore, you can't eradicate this way. When vexation is created, it is done. You need to experience that. But you can cease the process. You can cease the process by eliminating ignorance. This is the only way you can be happy. Otherwise, when the mind is vexed, then you need to do something to come out of vexation. Then you will feel pleasure again. Then you feel pleasure. The ignorant mind always thinks that the world is pleasurable. Then again, the ignorance will be powerful and you can't come out of this. I told you there are two ways. This is the first way and the only way for many people. But once you take the refuge of the Buddha, you will see the second one. That is, ceasing the process. Then we don't move forward. From there, actually what we do is be patient. That's why when you come to the sasana, you have to improve your patience. You should tolerate. But when I say that you should tolerate, when you come to sasana, you have to tolerate, then you might think that it's so hard. It's so hard. Actually, it's not hard, ladies and gentlemen, because you are with the Dhamma. But if I ask you to tolerate, that's unfair. That's why I told you this advice is not for you. But for them, monks, to me, everyone are monks and nuns, we all should tolerate. We can tolerate. We can tolerate because we have the Dhamma. But if someone has this path only, just imagine that. If he has to tolerate, for how long he has to do that? One day, 2 days, 1 month? Because he can't see a solution. But if you are with the Dhamma, you can eradicate ignorance. Perhaps this mind is vexed. This mind means a mind is vexed. But next mind won't be vexed because you apply the Dhamma. Because you have the other path. You can apply the Dhamma and eliminate ignorance. But if someone is with ignorance, he can't tolerate. He can tolerate perhaps a minute, a day, after that, because this is created all the time. Within a second, how many minds are created? Within a second. 1 billion, 1 trillion perhaps. In each mind, vexation is created. Then you will feel the aggregation of vexation. That is intolerable. That's why people use this path. That's why you want money, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, the world is correct. If you don't have the Buddha, you should follow the society. But perhaps the world blames us for what we talk, what we preach. Because we can say that you don't have to do all these things. You just need to eradicate ignorance, then your problem will be over. Then when we preach, the world doesn't like it. Because they think that we go against them. We go against them because we have seen the path. But we don't want to go against them. We want them to come with us because this is the only path. But we know that the society must be the society. We are not going to change the society, ladies and gentlemen, because they have created some rituals, they have created some manners. That's good. They need them. If you go to a party, you have to, because if you don't have this, that means if you don't take the refuge of the Buddha and if you don't start practicing, then you need parties. You need parties, therefore please go. Go to parties. Without that, you will suffer forever. At least you will feel pleasure when you do something. Everybody should get married. Everybody. If you don't have seen the Buddha. Otherwise, how can the ego be satisfied? If we ask the ego to stop doing all these things, how can it survive? Therefore, the society should be the society. That is perfect, I'm telling you. But when you understand the Dhamma and start practicing the path, now you have the other path. Each time you can apply the Dhamma. When you feel vexation, you can apply the Dhamma. When you feel a wanting, or when you have a wanting, I would say actually it's better, when you feel a wanting, When you feel a wanting, then you can apply the Dhamma. Not only at that time, but also every time you need to apply the Dhamma. But when you have a wanting, you can apply the Dhamma and eradicate the wanting. There are two ways: achieving something or eradicating the wanting. I want to build a big mansion. I want to build a big mansion. I can make a big mansion, or I can eradicate the wanting. Which one is easier? The second one is easier if someone knows how to do. The problem is people are not meritorious enough to understand the Dhamma or believe the Buddha's doctrine. Therefore they try to build a mansion. It takes another 5 years, but it's okay for them. They work their fingers to the bone, ladies and gentlemen, to build a mansion. And they live in there. Finally. In a mansion, can you live in a whole mansion? No. You live in perhaps 2 by 2 area. But the ego is big now. Ego wants it. Ego wanted it, and now ego has it. Therefore, ego can be satisfied by looking at it. Oh, I have a big house, I'm big. The ego feels so big with the house, because ego can be identified with anything, ladies and gentlemen. Especially valuable things. That's why the ego always creates values. Which one is more valuable, ladies and gentlemen? Gold or silver? Gold. Who has created all these things, ladies and gentlemen? Let's assume God exists. Let's assume God exists. Who has created them, ladies and gentlemen? If God exists, not you, I'm talking about if God exists, whoever creator is there, God, Brahma, Ishwar, whoever. If a creator is there, just tell me, who has created that? God has created it. If God has created something, how do you value it? How do you say that gold is more valuable than silver? The mind never does that, because the mind knows the truth, but the ego doesn't. Therefore, the ego always creates values. Ego adds values. Ego creates values. Because then when ego has valuable things, then ego feels so big, so superior to everyone. If you want to be superior, you have to create, or you have to add values, or you have to give values, not add values. You have to give values to things. Things. These are things. Which are made up of atoms. This is made up of atoms. This is made up of atoms. But this is 100 rupees. This is 50 rupees. Then you have this, I have this. Then I feel superior to you. You are a poor beggar, you have only this, but I have this. That's why you have seen brand names. That's why you wear branded, everything. Perhaps that's why some people speak in English. Not you, we also speak in English. Again, that's why people want their children to go to international schools. Then they feel superior. They satisfy their ego, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I told you. This is so embarrassing. When I feel that I had these things, so embarrassing, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, if you try to respect me more than other monks, I don't like it, because I feel so embarrassed. Because then it comes to me that if I'm an egoistic person, how shameful is that? Because let's assume that if I want you to respect me more than others, actually ego is disgusting, ladies and gentlemen. You just, when you go home, please think about this, the ego. Look at yourself, that's it. You need to do a simple thing. You just need to look at yourself. When you go somewhere, just look at. Be aware of yourself. Then you will see the actions you are going to do there, and perhaps your words, some condescending words you use when you meet some people, because you want, not you again, the society. I'll say you then. Because when I meet your eyes, then I feel so uneasy. But you can understand this. I'm not saying that this is wrong. This is just disgusting. It's not wrong. This is not wrong, because this is the only way to survive. This is the society we are talking about. When I talk about the ego, actually, it looks like I talk against the society. But I'm not. I really want them to understand this. Because I was in their shoes. Therefore, I know what I have done to be superior. I always wanted to be superior. So as you. We all are the same. We all are the ego. We wanted to be superior. That's why you got a good education. That's why you wanted to be rich, and that's why you have started a business. That's why you wanted to develop your business and build a business empire again. And you want perhaps you right now, perhaps you want your picture or your photo to be a magazine, a world famous magazine like Forbes. Dreams. The mind doesn't have any dream, ladies and gentlemen. Because the mind is pure. It doesn't have any wantings, therefore it doesn't have any dreams. If you have a wanting, you have a dream to achieve that wanting. Therefore, if someone says, I have a dream, then I would say, okay. I don't have a dream to achieve my salvation. Perhaps you ask that question. Don't you have a dream to achieve your salvation at least? No, I don't have a dream, because I don't have a wanting to achieve my salvation. Because if I have a wanting, I should apply the Dhamma. I can't practice the path. Can you remember? We have two paths, and we must obey the Buddha, and we must follow the Buddha's path. Therefore, if we have a wanting to achieve our salvation, because wanting leads vexation. If I have a wanting to achieve my salvation, that means I'm vexed. If I'm vexed, how can I achieve my salvation? Salvation is vex-free. Therefore, if I have a wanting, then I should apply the Dhamma. Even if I have a wanting to achieve my salvation, that means achieve the salvation we are talking about, then I should apply the Dhamma at that time. That's why I told you, I don't have a dream to achieve my salvation. You shouldn't have a dream to achieve your salvation. You can achieve your salvation right now. If you have a dream, you will fulfill your dream in the future. If you believe in future, you will achieve everything in future. Your present will be a hell, and you will work towards heaven, future heaven. But I'm not ready to destroy my present to achieve the future, because I don't believe in future. I don't believe in future, I don't believe in the past, I don't believe in the present. I only believe in the theory of cause and effect. When causes are there, an effect is created. That's the only thing that exists in this world. You will realize one day. If you talk about the past, if you talk about the future, if you talk about the present, I have a question for you. If you can tell me, then I will accept your answer. If you can prove it to me. My question is, how many minutes are there in the present? If the present exists, how many minutes? No? Then seconds? No? Milliseconds? Nanoseconds? No? Then how could you believe in the present if you can't measure it? You can't measure it because the theory of cause and effect exists. When causes are there, an effect is created. In that, you can't ask how many seconds are there. You don't have a past, ladies and gentlemen. You don't have a future. That's why, if you have a dream, that dream will be success, or you will achieve your dream. You will achieve your dream in the future. But I want you to practice right now. I want you to achieve your salvation right now. To achieve your salvation, I want you to apply the Dhamma right now. I want you to eradicate ignorance right now. If you eradicate ignorance right now, you will cease the process right now, and you will feel happiness right now. Because happiness is an effect. It also occurs according to the theory of cause and effect. But the problem is, the ego has wantings, therefore the ego has goals. You have achieved your goals, therefore you think that you think that you are a very successful person. I want you to think so. Then you will be happy. The world's richest person, the richest person in the world, yes. He thinks, or he or she, I don't know, whoever, I would say he thinks that he is very successful. I can't hurt his ego, therefore I would say, yes, of course. Otherwise, you have achieved all your dreams, ladies and gentlemen. They became your past. What do you have right now? At least do you have happiness in your mind? That's the problem. You have achieved, you have built a business empire. Good. You have got your PhD. Good. You have earned a lot of money. Good. Right now, what do you feel? Vexation. then you will die with your business empire. Yeah? Perhaps with your degree, PhD, your title, your money, your wealth, your family, your sons and daughters. Or vexation. Then you will be born again. Why? If you die with vexation, you have to come back to come out of vexation. Then tell me, please, can any life be successful without the Dhamma? No. That's what we have realized. That's why whoever comes to this monastery, whoever we meet, we want them to achieve their salvation. Even the President of America, whoever, or maybe God, Sakka, the King of Gods, if we meet him, we will ask him to ordain at least. If he can't, we will ask him to achieve his salvation. Because you can't be successful. You will die empty-handed. Because you served a wrong master. You have served for 100 years in this life. Million eons in total to the wrong master. You served the ego, then the ego made you to do things what it wanted. Finally, it built a big mansion, it built a business empire, it bought few cars, perhaps a ship. It has created a big family. Your spouse is perhaps the daughter of the king. That's why you wanted to match. Can't you remember? When you wanted to marry, your parents... Can't remember? Your parents brought few photos, and did you do that? No. Just imagine that. You chose because the ego chose it. Ego wanted to be satisfied. It wanted to be big, feel superior. Therefore, it wanted someone who is well known, perhaps, or who is very rich, who speaks English, who so on and so forth. Then you selected that, not you, the ego. Then, after that, the ego was identified with that thing. Whatever the wealth she or he had. Then you said, not you again, the ego said, I'm so rich. I'm well off. Do you ever think that it will leave you when you are on your deathbed? What do you think? Will it leave? knowledge, Sanjan. It will come to your next life if you don't eradicate it. Now you have a chance to do that. You have a chance to do that. At least now you know you need to eradicate ignorance. You need to eradicate ignorance. To eradicate ignorance, we need to study and contemplate about anicca, dukkha, anatta. And always we should be aware about, or we should aware of the ego. Wherever we go, whatever actions we take, we should be aware about it, and we should apply the Dhamma. And we should create the environment, which is, the ignorance can't be created. We have to create that environment. Somehow. You need to win this. In this life. Because when you come to next life, who knows what will happen, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps you will be a god. But if you don't have the Dhamma, just imagine this. You became a human being. And you came to this monastery. And you associate us. By doing all these things, if you can't achieve this salvation, if you go to heaven and become a god, and will you achieve your salvation there? That's why. Therefore, let's try. Try your level best. Out of compassion, I'm telling you. Because you have done many things, ladies and gentlemen, but all these things are, again, because you know that. You know that. The only problem is I can't talk about it because it hurts. But you know that. You can blame you. Can't you? Can't you blame yourself? You can blame yourself. Blame means you can inquire about your life. What have you done so far? Then you will realize everything. At least if you can stop this UL thing and start something UF thing, useful thing in your life. This is the only useful thing I have seen. Because this is the only way to achieve our salvation, means to be happy. I know you have done everything to be happy. But you couldn't achieve that. You have done everything. You have I think you have checked everything. But still, okay, let's come back to dukkha then. Because I promise you then within few minutes we will talk about dukkha. Right. I told you that Dhamma has been distorted. The Dhamma has been distorted, therefore people believe that dukkha is suffering. But dukkha is not suffering, ladies and gentlemen. The Buddha didn't talk about suffering. The Buddha talked about jati, which means this ego. This suffering is, I would say, a side effect. That means mental vexation is suffering. But the Buddha talked about the ego, which means jati, the false sense of existence, or sense of uniqueness, like you feel yourself like an entity, completely separated from others. You know that this is not you, this is the other. You have two things in your life. One is yourself, the other thing is the other. I and the other. This is the other. This is I. Then I is an entity, the other is an entity. The other, if you take the other, there are billion things, trillion things. The other and I. The other and I. He and I. She and I. It and I. The other and I. That's separateness. The mind feels that everything is an entity. And the mind perceives entities. This is dukkha. The mind perceives entities, ladies and gentlemen, but nothing is an entity in this world. Everything is a compound. You can't see any elements. You can't find any elements in this world apart from the periodic table. In the periodic table you will find elements, but it's not true, because we all know that sodium is made up of electrons, protons and neutrons. Then that can't be an element. But to study, we name it as an element. But everything is a compound. This is a compound. This is a compound. In Pali it's called sambhuta. When causes come together, a sambhuta is created. A compound is created. But ego is not a compound. Ego is fixed. Ego means jati. Jati feels that it fixed and it's an entity. But nothing is an entity. This is a compound. This is not unique. Because of its structure, this is different to this. But you all know that these two are made up of electrons, protons and neutrons. But it has a different structure. Due to the structure, it is different. Otherwise, it is the same. You and your friends, all of them are the same. But you have a different structure, different bone structure. But you have bonds and they have bonds. That means I have bonds and the other has bonds. The other means everyone. Everyone has bonds. But every bond, every piece of bond is made up of calcium carbonate, so on. Calcium, carbon, oxygen, which means again electron, proton, neutrons. Then how can you say that you are different to someone else? But this is how we feel. This is how we feel due to this. Because the mind wants to experience entities. Because the mind strongly believes that everything is an entity. That's why we need to enlighten the mind. We can enlighten the mind. The mind can understand the truth of the universe. Which means, if everything is an effect, the mind can understand that, then the mind will erase its view. But right now, the mind has a wrong view. That view is, the mind thinks that everything is an entity. That's why the Buddha said, everything is a compound. Everything is a sambhuta. Sambhuta means, when causes come together and something manifests. I can't say something manifests, but I have to use that word. Otherwise, when causes come together, manifest. If I say that, it's wrong. But actually, if I use something, your mind believes or your mind perceives it as an entity. Oh, something. You will say that. Oh, something is created. Because the mind needs it. Not the mind actually, the ego needs it. That's why we can talk about this pen. When we talk about this pen, we all know that this is made up of electrons, protons, neutrons, everything. Okay, now you know about this. Okay, then later, if I show this, won't you feel that this is an entity? This is unique and this is a unit. Don't you feel that? This is one. Because your mind has to make decisions. Here, actually the process of the mind is Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana. Now, this is the process of the mind. Now, when Rupa is created, the mind has to make its own decisions. When the mind makes its decisions, the mind has to use its views. Okay, let me explain this to you. What is this? A pen. What is this? A pen. How do you know that? It's a view. You know that these things are marker pens. Huh? This is a marker pen because it's in a view. Someone has taught you. Therefore, now you can remember this. This is a marker pen, and this is a microphone. Someone has taught us, therefore now we know that. It is in our memory. Every time when we decide something, we have to make a decision. When we perceive something, we have to make a decision. To make a decision, we have to take the memory. That means we have to use our views. There is a main view. If it is wrong, your all perceptions will be wrong. There is a main view. If this is wrong, it is called ignorance or wrong views. If it is right, it's called noble views, which means correct views or right views, but it is noble views. Samma ditti. There are two things. One is miccha ditti, the other one is samma ditti. These are Pali terms. Samma ditti means noble views, but it has a different meaning. I would say noble views, but in the future we will learn about that. It has a deeper meaning. Samma ditti. The word itself has the meaning. We will get it later. However, if you have a noble view, you will use the noble view to make your decision. That's why, if you have a wrong view, then you will use the wrong view to make the decision. Now, when I show this, then you will take the view you have. If it is wrong, then you will see this one as an entity. But you have learnt about this. You know that this is made up of electrons. Even though you can't see electrons, you know that this is made up of electrons and this is not an entity. This is not fixed. But when you see this, you have to perceive it. When you perceive it, you take wrong views and you use wrong views and make your decision. That's why when you see me, you see a human being. But I'm not a human being. Yes, we know you are the devil. You always tell that don't be offended, and you blame us every day. That's how the ego feels, ladies and gentlemen. But I love the mind. And I'm a mind. I'm not a being. But you see a being in me. You perceive a being in me. When I ask, how is that being? Can you draw that being? To draw, you need to find a face. Therefore, you take this face. And you think that this is the being. This is flesh. This is not a being, ladies and gentlemen. This is flesh. But somehow, you think that this is being. Because a being is created in your mind, because the entity is created in your mind when you perceive. You can't avoid that. You can't avoid that because before you perceive something, you have to make a decision. To make a decision, you use your views. That's why you need to purify ignorance. Ignorance means wrong views. You need to eradicate wrong views from your mind and install noble views in your system. This is called the path. The path is, we are going to remove wrong views from the system and install noble views. And let the machine run. As soon as you install noble views, you can't be an arahant. You have to let the machine run. Perhaps for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 70 years. During that process, you will achieve the stream enterer, once returner, non-returner, and an arahant. That's why we should discuss the Dhamma. When you listen to me and when we discuss, you will have teachers in the future. When you have teachers, you will discuss the Dhamma, and then you can share your views. Then your teachers will know what you have in your mind. Otherwise, you listen to me and perhaps you think that you have changed your views. But how do we know? You have to express that. When you express it, then we know what kind of views you have in your mind. Then, if it is wrong, again we will discuss the Dhamma and make it right, make it noble. Then, after that, we ask you to practice, contemplate. But if you have a wrong view in your mind, and if we ask you to contemplate the Dhamma, then you don't contemplate the Dhamma, because you don't have the Dhamma to contemplate. You have a wrong view, and you make your path harder. You may have seen many people who want to meditate. When they want to achieve their salvation, or when they want to study about Buddhism, then they suddenly start meditating. Perhaps they want to go to Himalayas and they start meditating. That's fine, but if you really want to achieve your salvation, that means you really want to achieve Nibbana, then first of all, you should change your views. Because this view is completely different, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I'm telling you. If we take Hinduism, if you want to get jhana means dhyana, you may have heard about that. If you want to achieve first, second, third, fourth dhyana, you don't have to change your views, because they are in the world. They are worldly achievements. Therefore, you don't have to change the view for that. You just need to keep looking at this and practicing one-pointedness. Then finally, you will come to the first stage, second stage, third stage, and fourth stage. Then you achieve what you seek for. That's fine. But now you need to achieve Nibbana. To achieve Nibbana, this is Supramandiya. That means you have to go beyond the world. To go beyond the world, you can't use anything that belongs to the world. That means you have to change your view completely. Therefore, first of all, you need to listen to someone who has achieved at least something in the path. Then you listen to him or her, whoever, then you understand and change your view and make sure that you have changed your view. You may have heard about Vidarshana. People talk about Vidarshana, and some people think that they can do Vidarshana very easily. They practice Vidarshana. They can't. To practice Vidarshana, at least you should be a stream enterer. If you are not a stream enterer, you can't practice Vidarshana. Vidarshana means a very specific way to see the world. When you practice Vidarshana, you will have another eye of wisdom. You use eye of wisdom to see the world or the reality of the world. When you see the reality of the world, you will realize the world and you will achieve your salvation. But to do so, you need the wisdom of, the eye of wisdom. You need that. You will get it when you understand the Dhamma. That means when you have a noble view with you, when you have the noble view with you, then you can see the world through that eye. Which means when you perceive something, the mind uses the noble view to make the decision. Therefore, each time you will see the truth. The path is not hard if you can change your view. Until that, it is hard. Because the ego listens to the Dhamma and ego rejects most of them. Ego hurts and ego never let the mind understand anything. Ego is a barrier to the mind to understand the Dhamma. But somehow we need to win. It's catch-22, ladies and gentlemen. Because when the ego doesn't like the Dhamma, but to remove the ego, you need the Dhamma. If the mind can associate the Dhamma, the mind can remove the ego. But the ego never let the mind understand the Dhamma. Therefore, only thing you need to do is keep listening. Keep listening and keep contemplating. That's it. Let's do that. And at least determine that you will understand this and you will attain Nibbana in this life. I know you have built a good career. Everyone. Then you can do this either. If you did that, you can do this. But I want you to want to do this. Path is clear. I can tell it 100%. The path is clear. You have the path and you have best teachers. I can guarantee, because we do everything in our power to achieve our salvation and keep the truth within us. We cleanse everyone's mind every morning. We come together and we discuss the Dhamma from 4:30 to 5:30. Everyone in the monastery will come. Everyone in the monastery comes to the Dhamma hall in this very place, a sacred place. They come to the Dhamma hall and they start discussing the Dhamma every day, every day from 4:30 to 5:30. Because we need to keep the truth within us. If someone has a distorted something, then when we discuss, he can make it right. He can remove the wrong view and take the noble view. That's why we do that every day. Therefore, I can guarantee that you will have good teachers who understand, who have understood the Dhamma. Therefore, your path is clear. You are still alive. Therefore, you are so fortunate. And now the ball is in your court. Okay, then see you next week. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. Thank you.